Join the Our Game Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material. Well, huge news has just rolled in from Wexford, and that's that Dara Egan, the Tipperary man, the Kildangan man, he is set to be ratified as manager of Wexford, succeeding Davy Fitzgerald. I'm just going to read the statement here, and I'll bring it up on screen. That's come out from Wexford GA just in this past couple of minutes. Wexford GA are delighted to announce that we will be proposing Dara Egan as our new senior hurling manager to the county board for ratification later this month. A native of Kildangan, County Tipperary, Dara has won 2 All-Ireland titles as a player for Tipperary and was selector and coach in Liam Sheedy's backroom team, winning an All-Ireland in 2019. He is principal of Kildangan National School and is heavily involved in Kildangan GA Club. Wexford GA person Micheál Martin, in welcoming Dara to the Wexford GA fold, said, "Our strategic plan, Araglin Lekela, is the most ambitious plan ever launched in the history of Wexford GA, with clear and specific goals for on and off the pitch. We are conscious that the performance of our senior hurling team is a key element in the social well-being of our county. Dara Egan is a sharp, enthusiastic and energetic leader who understands performance at an elite level. He is process-driven and has a hunger for success. He has experience of leading in a high-performance environment, and I've no doubt that he will bring a wealth of knowledge to Wexford hurling as we aim to take the next step on the journey to success. We hope that you will join us in making Dara welcome in Wexford and integrating him into the Wexford GA family." So obviously that is huge news there, because the talk had been that a few people had been interviewed for the job. Well, certainly they'd made contact with the likes of Jason Ryan, Willie Maher, Derek McGrath's name was in there. And of course, Dara Egan, he'd been talked about, and the talk was that they'd met him a couple of weeks ago, or a week or two ago anyway. And his CV is very strong. Obviously, he involved with Tipperary going back a long way, playing both in the forwards, then laterally in the goals, and then obviously as a selector, apparently a very big part of Kildangan turning things around, because Kildangan, 15 or 20 years ago, they were barely registering in Tipperary hurling, certainly not making any strides at the top level of club hurling in Tipperary. And now they're county champions last year and looking good again this year. They just won their second North title in a row. I think they've won something like 6 in the last decade, something like that. And they started off the county championship with a win against Lockmore the other night. He's still playing in goals for their second team as well. And actually, that's a fair reflection of where Kildangan are at. Their second team won against Burgess's first team in the opening round of the county championship at the weekend just gone. So if you're a Wexford person, you're thinking, who would be someone good who can ensure that from top to bottom that there's going to be a focus on bringing players through? Dara Egan might be that man. And he is someone who was in the conversation for Tipperary as well. So that's also something to be looked at here, that what is the knock-on effect in terms of who Tipperary go to next. For Wexford, I think it definitely is it's definitely a good step in terms of like a manager with different sort of experiences. Davy Fitz has obviously been there for 5 seasons, won a Leinster title. Some of the seasons went very well, certainly some early progress there, and then the last couple of seasons just haven't gone as well. So maybe a fresh voice, a guy who's only in his mid-30s. I think Dara Egan's only 35 and yet still has a wealth of experience, and obviously under the wing of Liam Sheedy there for the last couple of years as well. He'll have learned plenty that he can bring forward for Wexford in the coming years. And like, if you look at the Kildangan type team, they're very good at using the ball, working it around possession style play, and I mean that in a positive sense rather than overdoing it. And maybe it'll give a new lease of life to the team. When we watched them at times this year against Clare, for example, down in Thurles, there was one stage, I think everyone remembers, Cathal Dunbar got the ball, he turned, look up, there was no one inside the 45, so he had to take a low percentage shot, planted his feet on the sideline on his left-hand side, and somehow managed to get it over. But it just kind of suggested that this Wexford team, maybe they could set up a slightly different way, have that focal point in attack to work off, and then use the ball out the field well at the same time. And that's obviously the sort of balance that most teams are trying to find, and maybe Davy Fitz is trying to find that too, but it just didn't kind of happen. Maybe it'll give a new lease of life to the likes of Lee Chin, Conor MacDonald, Rory O'Connor. And I'd be curious to see if this is positively received by the people of Wexford, because often you're looking for the sort of big name manager, and Wexford just had that, and of course that delivered a Leinster title. Dara Egan is certainly well known in Tipperary, but nationally, has he quite made his mark as a coach just yet? Obviously being part of Tipperary, but in his own right, like, has his name gotten out there across the country yet? And this is a big opportunity for that to happen. Plenty of comments coming in here. Big move for Dara and Wexford, says John Collins. John Adams says, big move for Wexford to appoint him, but let's get behind him and push on from here. There's a hurling fan from Wexford. John Collins also adds, Dara Tipperary could learn a lot from Wexford development process. Tipperary behind everyone in that regard. Well, I mean, there is definitely questions about Tipperary in terms of, like, what is the overarching strategy in terms of bringing players through. Look at Limerick and their minor teams the last couple of years, and this is specifically watching against Tipperary. They're playing pretty similar game plan to their seniors, so they have an idea of what they are and who they want to bring through. Same with, I think, if you look at the Cork teams that are beginning to dominate, there's sort of a similar ethos that's going through their teams. They actually have an overarching athletic development officer or development coach athletically throughout the age groups. I was at that launch a couple of years ago when the likes of Pat Ryan and Kieran Kingston was brought back, and Don Logue also as the minor manager at that stage. And, you know, there is an overarching plan, and obviously Wexford, and the talk was in that statement that I read out about their Araigla Kayla, their plan at kicking on. They obviously have a commercial manager, which they appointed a couple of years ago. That's something that we've seen in Dublin as well. Mossy Quinn has been in that position for a while. So that is very, very big news for Wexford, that Dara Egan is involved there. I think it obviously opens up the question now, who will take the job in Tipperary, and maybe Dara Egan, he will. I think he going into a Leinster Championship where he'll feel that he can win this thing, because, you know, we did the hurling power rankings on yesterday's hurling show, and we ranked and this is myself and Michael Verney, we ranked all the Munster teams ahead of all of the Leinster teams, which gives you an indication that Leinster is there to be won, and backbone by those under-21 teams from the middle of the last decade that are all now at a maturity level and probably right in the middle of their prime years. Now is the time for Wexford to strike, and Leinster is there for them. They'll feel there's no reason they can't. But obviously the teams that are at the lower end of Leinster, they'll feel they can compete with. But Galway didn't look to be pulling up trees this year or last. Kilkenny are obviously back-to-back champions, but Wexford took them all the way to extra time and maybe could have won that game in normal time. And then Dublin are there to, you know, they're probably, there's never too much between Dublin and Wexford. So for Dara Egan, this is actually a great opportunity for him to go in and win something. And if you win Leinster, you're straight into an All-Ireland semi-final, and from there, who knows? And he has that experience of winning dressing rooms now, which is very, very important. I think when a manager goes into a dressing room, that people look at him and think, right, this lad knows how to get it done, and he knows how to take the temperature of the room and what to say. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out for him. I wouldn't be getting too excited about this if I was from Wexford, says it wasn't me. But keep your comments coming in. Let me know if you are excited as a Wexford person, or, you know, from Tipperary. Are you disappointed that he's not going to be hanging around with Tipperary, or maybe he wasn't, maybe he didn't get approached by Tipperary in the way that he would want. I mean, Liam Cahill, the thought is that he felt that he wasn't wanted as much by Tipperary in the way that Waterford showed that they wanted him. So that's the thing now. A couple of jobs are definitely up for discussion at the moment. The talk is that David Connors from the Tuam Herald tweeted that Davy Fitz had been in contact with the Galway County Board, and the other talk that he was in contact with the Dublin County Board. That's unsubstantiated, but there are reports of that. So will Davy Fitz show up somewhere in the inter-county scene next year? Always brings something to it, and obviously success as well, because we've seen winning Munster with Waterford, All-Ireland with Clare, and a Leinster with Wexford. So that's it. That's a lot of jobs that are up for grabs at the moment. And as Adrian McGrath adds here at Clareman, if Egan has the organisational skills to go with his knowledge and training, Wexford are getting a good manager. I also did an interview with Egan, actually a couple of them. One from 2019, I think another one from maybe late 2020 or early 2020, which you can check out on the ourgame.ie playlist, whether you're looking on YouTube or whether you're on the website. So that's it. Wexford have a new manager set to be ratified next month. Join the Our Game Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material.